Hello, good afternoon. It's been quite a while that I've decided to just go on live. Well, I thought I've taken off not a break, but just a complete stop from all things Gambia. But then again, in as much as I say that I don't want to discuss Gambia, it's painful not to discuss the Gambia. And I think we are all duty bound to have a dialogue. We're all duty bound to make our points and also tell the average Gambian what's wrong with our country. I may not indulge into politics, not because I'm scared, but I've decided that the average Gambian have decided what is good for them, and what is good for them is detrimental to our collective good. Therefore, 𝗂𝗎𝗋 will be only talking about things that affects us as it relates to policy and or tourism development. But I just don't want to venture going forward into a political discourse with any Gambian, because it's futile if you really understand where we are, where we came from, and where the country is heading. So no more shall 𝗂𝗎𝗋 be indulged in political discourse. But notwithstanding, 𝗂𝗎𝗋 will periodically come out and speak his mind as it relates to the business of running the country, as it relates to the economy. Back to the question that I pose as my title: what is wrong with the Gambian economy? Well, this may look or sound like a loaded question, but it's not loaded. It's plain old simple. Ronald Reagan once asked, is the economy stupid? No, the economy is not stupid, but the economy tends to punish people for making stupid decisions. And in this case, the Gambia has been punished severely for making unforced errors as it relates to the management and execution of our economy. Having said that, I will delve into two areas. One is of trade, and the other is of financing of fiscal issues, the budget of the economy. When the economy does well, Gambians are relatively prosperous. When the economy does well, better things happen for the average Gambian. Crime goes down, our health gets better, our living standards get better. But unfortunately, all these indices I've listed are heading south, and they're all getting worse. So therefore, something is fundamentally wrong with our economy. So the reason why I'm saying something is fundamentally wrong with our economy, all indicators that shows economic prosperity are southbound, and nothing is looking good as it relates to the economy. Be it inflation, be it people having savings, be it employment, you name it, everything is heading south. It's heading south not only because of global trends, i.e. what's happening in the global space. It has to do more so with what we're doing wrong as a nation, what we're doing wrong as a government, and this we need to talk about. I'll start with trade. If you look at Gambia in the 80s, Gambia used to be the supermarket of West Africa. And when I say West Africa, I'm talking about Liberia, Guinea, Sierra Leone, Mali, Guinea-Bissau, and even Senegal, our next door neighbors. Smuggling was very rampant in the 80s, where people come to Gambia, buy goods either by boats or by cars, and smuggle them into Senegal. Well, that spelled prosperity for the Gambian economy, because our import volumes went up. When the import volumes went up, businesses were doing good. A name like 𝗄𝗆𝗆, Ahmed Diab, Youssoufa Samba, these were household names in Senegalese houses. Why? Because they provided textiles to the Senegalese, and they provided more textile than Senegal as a whole imported. So that shows how thriving our economy was. If you go to places like Cotton Hill Street, you will see trucks waiting to be loaded outbound for Liberia, outbound for Mali, outbound for Guinea. We used to have a place called 𝗂𝗄𝗃 Guinea behind the Box Bar Stadium towards the Mosque Road end. Every day you have 10-15 trucks leaving Gambia for Guinea. Not anymore. Well, these are indicators that can show you that our economy is faltering. Our economy is faltering because of poor public policy decisions taken by people who were either oblivious of the environment they live in, or they lack the basic understanding of growing, maintaining, and managing an economy. Yesterday, we heard Mr. Sidi Keita, the Minister of Trade, stating that it's a plus for Gambian goods to be imported via the port of Dakar. First, I will tell Mr. Keita respectfully that that's a fallacy. Secondly, I will also tell him that that notion is not supported by any economic school of thought. Therefore, what he said was his personal opinion, but it lacked theoretical economic backing to make that notion something that we can go by and something we can accept as a good policy prescription for the Gambia. In recent days, we have heard not only him, the Minister of Finance, and even the President stating that there's not much Gambia can do as it relates to there's not much we can do as it relates to the commodity pricing in the country. Well, there is so much we can do, and what we can do is to run a clean, a tight, a competitive economy that will make sure that prices are reasonable. Today, the Gambian consumer is suffering because of the inefficiency in the market. The inefficiency in the market is a factor of the corruption that we see, is a factor of the dilapidated public infrastructure, i.e. ports, i.e. roads, etc., etc., and the bureaucratic red tape that people go through just to get their goods out of the ports. Today, if you ship a container from the northeastern seaboard of the United States, i.e. from New York all the way down to Miami, it takes an average of 15 days to get to Dakar. But to the contrary, it takes an average of 35 to 45 days to get to Gambia. That in itself is an added cost. And once it comes, boats don't dock, or ships don't dock at port as soon as they call to the port. Why? Because our infrastructure at the port cannot handle the traffic that's coming in country. Therefore, these are added to the prices, because importers are not charitable organizations. They are profit-making entities that are set out to make profit. Therefore, if their goods come to port and a ship has to wait 8 days, 10 days before they dock, there will be demurrage, and that demurrage will be charged or passed on to the Gambian consumer. Therefore, it makes price distortions a reality, and when prices are distorted, they are distorted upward most of the time rather than downwards. Therefore, we will tend to see our price levels going up. When price levels go up, inflation gets on the rise. When inflation gets on the rise, that's when the average Gambian consumer tend to realize that the value of their money has gone down, and has gone down significantly. So, Mr. Trade Minister, you are wrong. Mr. Trade Minister, your prescription is not something that will solve the Gambian problem. The Gambian problem as it relates to food security will be solved if the government realizes that we are a small, open economy that is prone to things that are beyond our control. And the only way out is first and foremost for the government of the Gambia to come out with what we call an import substitution strategy. An import substitution strategy will look at the low-hanging fruits of things that Gambia need not import and make sure we produce locally. We'll start with vegetables, juices. These are simple things that doesn't take much, nor does it require heavy technology to do. If we do that, we will cut our import bill. When we cut our import bill, our net balance of trade will go down. When our net balance of trade goes down, our need for foreign exchange goes down, especially if our productive capacity has gone down. We have seen tourism on the decrease. We have seen our exports on the decrease. Therefore, we are not getting international receipts as it relates to foreign currency that much. So therefore, having an import substitution strategy will be the first step towards making sure that price stability is a reality in the Gambia. But why is it that common sense is not common? Why is it that the Ministry of Trade is not thinking like many an economist will think, to say that if our productive base is not producing as much as it should, there is trouble for the country. When there is trouble for the country, we need to find strategies that will ensure that lives and livelihood continue without disruptions and interruptions that are going to be heartfelt by the average poor Gambian. That's just one. Secondly, the budget of this country is also a major problem why this country is suffering. Over the past 3 years, we have seen the Gambian budget grow significantly. There is nothing wrong with a budget growing, but the growth of any budget should commensurate with its revenue. And we have seen that our revenue is not in line with the growth rate of our budget. The growth rate of the budget is faster than our income. That is also troubling, and it is very reckless, and it defies any conventional economic logic. So I want to ask the question, who is thinking in the government to make sure that this economy not only stays afloat, stays relatively competitive vis-a-vis its neighbors, stays relatively stable so that the average Gambian will not feel the disruptions in the country? I've decided I'm not going to delve in the political issues because Gambians have made a choice. And the choice they've made, they have to live with it. And living with it means going through the hardships that we're being faced with right now as a country. But we just want to advise the Ministry of Trade that understanding the dynamics of the economy, understanding the dynamics of our neighbors' economy and their intentions are the first steps towards coming up with a policy that will not only be sustainable but will be beneficial to the Gambia and the Gambian economy. So, Mr. Minister of Trade, I don't know what your understanding of the environment that we live in, i.e. the ECOWAS market and the Senegambian market to begin with. I don't know what your understanding of the local dynamics that underpin the Gambian economy. We all know that the average Gambian is a daily paid worker who earns less than $2 a day. We all know that the rate of inflation is so fast that $2 that the average Gambian is earning has been eroded to nothing less than $1.40 in real terms. If you take a discounted value of their $2, they are only fetching $1.40 in terms of value. So, Mr. Minister of Trade, it's your responsibility to make sure that their hard-earned $2 is protected from inflation, especially on commodity pricing. We all know that rice is a staple. We all know that the government of the Gambia has zero-rated rice as it relates to duty. And that is not a good thing, because the savings that are made by the importer of rice is not being passed on to the Gambian consumer of rice. So who is benefiting from a zero-rated duty of rice importation? Is the importer of rice, not the end user who buys rice a cup at a time. So I urge the Minister of Trade to find solutions that are going to keep this economy afloat and make households not too unbearable as it relates to their expenditures. The average Gambian is poorer today than 5 months ago. The average Gambian is poorer today than 2 years ago, and things are going to get worse. It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse because we lack people at the highest offices to understand what this economy needs. The Gambian economy is in need of a jolt, like an electric shock, but the jolt that it needs is to kickstart economic growth and prosperity. But for us to kickstart economic growth and prosperity, we need to redefine the Gambian economy. We need to reposition the Gambian economy. We need to come up with policies that will make Gambia competitive. And making Gambia competitive starts with understanding the value proposition of the Gambia. What is our value proposition? What do we have to offer that others are not offering? What are our strengths? What are the Achilles heel or the weaknesses of the Gambian economy? These are the premises or bases that we need to use to come up and formulate policies that will insulate us from being swallowed by the global economy and the regional economy, and to an extension the Senegambian economy. Gambia, whether we like it or not, we have relegated ourselves to be another region of Senegal. Yes, we are de facto the next region of Senegal, for the simple fact our internet comes from Senegal, a bulk of our electricity comes from Senegal, the vegetables we consume comes from Senegal, and of late most of the petroleum products coming in country comes from Senegal. A bulk of our cement comes from Senegal. The condiments, being Maggi, be it milk, powdered milk or others, comes from Senegal. So de facto, whether we like it or not, we are no longer running a national economy. We are running a sub-regional economy that is an extension of the Senegalese national economy. What does that mean? It means, in simple layman's term, the Gambian economy has been consumed by the Senegalese economy. And this in itself is the problem. And this in itself is something that our policymakers are blind, oblivious, or indifferent to. We cannot change our fortunes if we don't realign, redefine, and reposition the Gambian economy. The Gambian economy has been made destitute by the managers of the Gambian economy, the government of the Gambia. The Gambian economy is no longer an independent entity that decides what's good and what's bad for them. We are literally at the mercy of our next door neighbors, and unknowingly to the people who manage this economy, we have been consumed. See, in this world, you either become a producer or you get consumed in the business of consumption. And Gambia has been consumed in the business of consumption by our next door neighbor, because we refuse to step up and we refuse to protect the gains that have been made over the past 35 to 40 years. And these gains are eroding day in, day out. There was a time the Gambian port was one of the most efficient ports in West Africa. The turnaround time for ships to come in and outbound of the Gambia was so fast. Many businesses in the sub-region will rather drop their goods in the Gambia and truck it elsewhere. Those days are long gone, thanks to corruption and thanks to the stupidity and incompetence of the people who formulate policy for us. Therefore, the Minister of Trade has a handful. That is, if he knows what he is doing. There's one thing occupying a position There is another thing being effectively occupying a position, and as it stands, the minister is not effectively occupying the position of the Ministry of Trade.